actually going to use that to outline. But I am going to draw a rainbow and an oval on top. But I'm only going to fill in this section right here. And if you need to turn your paper around, you can go ahead and do so. Because I'm going to put my teal away, and I am going to be taking out now my battery charged blue. It's a fancy name for a blue. And I'm going to fill in this part here. All right. We are just about done with our marker step. But what we do need to do is we are going to be taking out, our red Sharpie. I'm going to take my red Sharpie and I'm just going to outline her lips. But I am not going to fill them in quite yet. So I'm just outlining. So she's got those nice red lips. And then I'm actually going to go back to my Bold and Bright color set because there's this nice red color in here. It is called Infrared. And I'm going to use that to fill it in. So it's a little bit lighter than the regular red Sharpie. So I know it's kind of a little bit hard to see, but you can kind of tell those lines right there. All right. Now that we are done with our markers, let's go ahead and put those away. If you're still working on any part of Princess Jasmine, you can go ahead and press pause on the video. I am, however, going to be taking out my colored pencils. Now, I don't have a gold marker, which is why I'm now moving on to using my dark ochre for any of the gold parts in my picture. So, for example, up here, I'm going to use my dark ochre, or whatever gold color you have, you can use. And I'm just going to color in this part of her headband. All right, and I'm just going over, making sure it's a nice dark enough color so I can really see it. And I'm also going to be coloring her earrings and her necklace. So I'm just going over, making sure I'm getting as close as I can to those lines. I am going to be doing some shading in a little bit, but I do want to make sure that this is colored in completely. Try your best to get any of those white spots that you may have missed. All right, just going over, coloring that earring. Again, try your best to get all those white spots. Now I'm going to color her necklace. Now I like to stick to the same color and then switch off, so we will go back to those earrings in just a short bit. But for right now, I want to color everything that I can with my dark ochre. We have a gold colored pencil. You can use whatever looks like gold to you. I'm I'm just going over, making sure I got all those white spots just to make sure this color really stands out. All right, if you're still working on any parts of your picture, you can always press pause. I am going to go move on to my light brown. I do want to add some shading here. So just lightly, I'm going to go over the top of those earrings and just add that light brown. On the left side and the right side. And you don't need to do this all over those earrings. You only want to do it close to the top because it's shading. Part of the hair is blocking that light. Also, we're just going to add a little bit to the left and the right of the necklace. All right. Also, with your light brown, you are going to want to fill in those eyes. Because Princess Jasmine does have brown eyes. So there is her eyes. Now I actually recommend taking a dark brown and adding a little bit of that dark color to the top of her irises. This way it does show that her eyelids are casting a shadow onto her eyes. This is an optional step, you don't have to do it. I just think it makes the eyes stand out just a little bit more. All right, there is that. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to be taking out our chalk pastels. So let's go ahead and put away those colored pencils. And now we'll take out our chalk pastels. All right, Princess Jasmine has like a darker skin tone. So you want to be a little bit careful on what color you do use. You may have to do some mixing. So what I am actually going to do is I am going to be taking my tan and adding a little bit of brown over it. But you do want to be extra careful and go around those eyes. But you do want some of that color on the eyelids. So right now this skin tone is a little bit too light for Princess Jasmine. So after I've added this tan color, I'm going to take my brown, this nice little bit lighter brown, and just very gently go over with that brown. So I'm not using a whole lot. I'll put that away for now. I'm going to take my finger and very carefully blend on her face. Get as close as you can to that hair and her eyebrows. And as you can see right here, I am going above her eyelids, but I'm making sure not to go on the whites of her eyes. Now, if you're a little bit unsure of what color to use for her face, I highly suggest taking out that practice draw and trying out different chalk pastels on her face just to see what color works best for you. But we are going to go back and use that brown because we are going to add a little bit of shading to her face. Now it's okay if you go over her lips a bit. Nifty little trick that you can do if you do get any of that dust anywhere, you can easily take an eraser and very gently erase those areas that got chalk pastel on them. Just be careful not to erase too hard. So make sure you blended that chalk dust as much as you can. But we are not quite done with that face yet. We do need to go back and add some shading. So I'm actually going to take that same brown that I used earlier, after I've made sure everything's blended neatly. I'm going to take that brown, if I can get it out of the box. There we go. I'm going to go along here on her eyelid, very carefully. It's like you're applying makeup to a real person. And I'm going to add some shading down here. Now very carefully with one finger, I'm just going to blend just to add that shading to the bridge of the nose. And it's kind of like she's got some eyeshadow on. And we've got a shading under her chin. If you have a lot of dust, you can easily just tap it on the table. You can also add just a little bit underneath her nostrils. But there is the shading on her face. Now again, if you have any of that extra chalk dust, you can tap it on the table. Also, you can erase it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding purple to the background. Oh, but before I do that purple to the background, let's actually add some more detail to her hair. So we do need to take our light blue. Where her hair curves, you're going to add this line and that line. We're going to add to the top, and the top of that rainbow. So I'm not filling it in. And then the top along here. Now I highly suggest maybe using a different finger, because as you can tell, my finger is a little bit dark, so I don't want to make it too brown on her hair. So I'm just going to use a different finger to add that nice highlight. As you can see, I'm not blending too much, just following along that line that I created to add some more dimension to her hair. There we go. So that way it stands out just a little bit more. Now we can take our purple. Now I suggest not using too much, just build up a little bit at a time. I'm going to add some purple to that background. Get as close as you can to that hair. And then I'm going to carefully blend. Blend as best as you can. You don't want to see any of those white spots. So if you need to get as close as you can to the hair, you certainly can. If you feel that you need to add a little bit of extra chalk dust, you can do that as well. Just be careful around Jasmine's face and the hair, because she's basically done it, unless you want to add some gems or sparkles on her face. But be extra careful as you go on her shoulder. So I'm feeling like I could add just a tiny bit more. I'm just going to go over and add that bit. There we go. So that's a nice darker color. But if you're going to do the same background that I'm doing, you're actually going to take your eraser. And we're going to erase some clouds out of the sky. So I've just got my eraser here. And I'm just drawing circles with my eraser and erasing that extra chalk dust off. You can even use a bigger eraser if you would like. I like the smaller pencil erasers just so I can get a little bit more accurate. You can make those clouds big or small. That is up to you. So there are some clouds. All right, if you find that it's a little bit hard to erase, you can easily take a piece of paper and erase that chalk dust off of your pencil to erase even more color. Sometimes that chalk pastel builds up on the eraser, so sometimes you need to wipe it off. Now you could leave your picture like this if you would like to. However, I'm going to be adding some gems and some glitter to my princess. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking out my glitter glue. So I'm just going to dig it out of my box here. Now what I like to do is I like to get a paper plate because I don't want to add too much glitter to it. Sometimes less is a little bit more. So I have all these different colors here. What I'm going to do is I am first going to take my teal or turquoise, whatever color this looks like to you. I'm going to take this and I'm going to just get a little bit of that glue on the headband and also the elastic here. But I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm actually going to be taking my paintbrush and I'm just going to spread that glitter around. Now be careful if you are using glitter glue. Sometimes that glitter glue wants to pick up that marker below. I find that with Crayola markers, the color tries to be picked up a little bit more. With Mr. Sketch, however, not so much. So be careful if you are using that glitter glue. So you can kind of tell there's a line right there. So really quickly, just try and spread that glitter around. All right. If you have extra glitter, you can wipe it off or take your watercolor bucket and wipe that off as well. I'm actually going to do the same thing with my gold on her earrings and her necklace. So luckily this is in colored pencil, so it should pick up any of that color unlike the Crayola markers. I'm just going to do a quick dab and dab there. I'm going to take my brush and just spread that gold around by gently tapping. I find that tapping it is a little bit better than brushing it because it tends to just pick up the glitter, but tapping it sets it in place. I know it might be a little bit hard to see on the camera, so I'll just lift it up a little bit closer to you so you can kind of see that glitter right there. And we're going to spread that glitter around on the necklace also. And if you have a lot of glitter on your brush, you can easily brush it off. Now, there is one last thing I do want to do with the glitter glue. However, that part I do want to save for last because it can get a little bit messy. So we'll just put this aside for now and take out our gems. So I've got different size gems here for my designs. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead, take out some greens for Princess Jasmine. So I've got these nice greens. I can easily just put them right on our headband. I find, again, as I said earlier, less is more, so I probably won't use as too many gems, but just enough so you can really tell that it's there. So there's some there. Also, you can use some of those gems right here on her headband. Be careful if your glitter glue is still wet. It might smear, so be extra careful as you do this gem step. But you don't have to add gems if you don't want to. That is up to you. So I'm just going to add a few. You can easily scoop them over. I'll add one more right there. All right. And if you have any golds or oranges, you can add those there as well. Be careful though, sometimes that glue on the gems just doesn't want to come off. I'm not going to add any gems to her earrings though, just because they are, I mean, you could put it at the bottom, but I'm just going to leave it as is. So there is that. But again, you can choose any sorts of colors that you want for the gems that you're using. I'm trying to stick with the same color tones for those princesses. So Jasmine is more of that teal turquoise color. Now, before I do my final step, I do want to add some stars to my background. So I've got some white here. I'm going to add those stars. I need one more. There we go. Then, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my red glitter glue. Actually going to put that on her lip. But I'm going to go pretty quick because remember, if the glitter settles too fast, it's going to pick up the marker, unless you have Mr. Sketch. And I'm going to spread that glitter around her lips. Now it's a little hard to see. I'll lift it close for you to see. Now the final step can be tricky. So if you wanted to do this with a metallic silver Sharpie, you could do that as well. However, I'm going to be using my silver, and I'm going to be drawing some swirls in those clouds. So I recommend watching me first before doing this. You want to make sure that your glitter glue is at the bottom where it's going to come out. And I'm going to draw those swirls and swirls. Now, if you're adding those swirls like I am, just for a warning, make sure to let your picture dry for a while. This glitter glue tends to not dry as quickly as, say, Elmer's glue. So make sure to give your picture enough time for it to dry because it is pretty thick. And that is it for Princess Jasmine, unless you want to add any more of those details with glitter glue or gems. But I'm just going to leave my picture as is. So I'm just going to take this moment to clean my area, and I'm going to let my picture dry. So I'm just going to set it somewhere, making sure that all of this dries up here because it is pretty thick still. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a lot of fun learning how to draw Princess Jasmine. We will see you next time, and please don't forget to post your pictures on our Fibo Village page. And we will see you next time. Bye!